Good evening, everyone. I'm Riley King, and welcome to the Riley King Newscast right here on the Riley King Network. Let's begin. And by the way, I have a little cold going on. I'm catching a cold, so bear with me if you hear sneezing or anything like that. Let's begin with your news. We're following some breaking news. Salem police issue warning after sewing needles found in Halloween candy. Salem police are urging parents to inspect their children's Halloween candy after a trick-or-treater reported finding sewing needles in multiple candy pieces. The trick-or-treater filed the report Friday. Police said he had been trick-or-treating in the neighborhoods off Kelly Road in Salem, but did not know which home the tainted candy came from. Officers said the discovery is similar to those in communities across New England, including in Marshfield and Sturbridge, Massachusetts, and in Newport, Maine, where sharp objects were found in candy in those communities. A bag of marijuana was also found in a trick-or-treater's bag in Auburn, Maine. Any suspicious items in candy should be reported to police. Toddler 6, others sent to hospital after carbon monoxide leak in Lawrence home. Firefighters are investigating a carbon monoxide leak in a Lawrence home that sent a toddler and 6 other people to the hospital, officials said. The call came from a two-family residence on Canton Street, where the victim reported that they were feeling dizzy and lightheaded. Officials are saying high levels of carbon monoxide were found because of a malfunctioning heating system. The injuries are not life-threatening, and the home is not located in the gas restriction area of Lawrence. WCVB will have more information when it becomes available. Records show state lawmakers as convicted felon tagged deer shot with firearms. Democrats obtained as part of the WMTW News 8 investigation confirm a state representative as a convicted felon appealed for hunting permits and tagged deer shot with firearms. Rep. Jeffrey Price is not allowed to have or use guns. According to hunting records, Price tagged deer shot with a firearm on at least 2 occasions. One of the deer was shot with a 7mm rifle in November of 2011. Another was shot with a 30.6 rifle in November 12. State records also indicated Price appealed for numerous firearm hunting permits dating back to the early 2000s, including the years he tagged deer. When applying for those hunting permits in Maine, people are asked if they are a convicted felon. Price was convicted of drug trafficking in 1983. He served 30 days in jail for a felony conviction. The Maine Warden Service is now investigating Price's hunting practices. The penalty for falsified hunting documents is a fine. A convicted felon found in possession of a gun faces fines or possible felony charges. Price is currently running for re-election as Republican in District 53, which includes Ashton, Darton, Georgetown, Philburg, Woolwich, and part of Richmond. He said earlier this week he has no plans to drop out of that race. He believes the tip that prompted the investigation is a political smear tactic. At least two GOP officials would not comment on the situation or did not respond to a request for comment. WMTW News 8 obtained Price's hunting records through a Freedom of Access Act request. The records were provided by the Maine Department of Inland Fishery and Wildlife. And now let's take a look at your stock market and see how your stock market closed for this Friday evening. And here's a look at your U.S. stock market right now. Your Dow Jones Industrial Average closed in, the red went down. Your Nasdaq closed in, the red went down. S&P 500 closed in, the red went down. Gold closed in, the red went down. Oil closed in, the red went down. US 10-year closed in the green and went up. Euro/USD closed in the red and went down. And VIX closed in the green and went up. Stocks fall after wild session as conflicting trade news keeps investors guessing. Stocks traded in a wide range on Friday as investors designated different comments in reports on global trade, while Apple shares dented in border tech sector. Half say Trump encourages violence by way he speaks, pulls fines. Let's take a listen to the video from ABC News. Looks like we're having a little technical difficulties. Give me 1 minute.
Nothing. Is this a test?
No. Do you like getting stuff you like for free?
Yes, this feels like a test.
It's not.
Get 6 months free Apple Music on the network you deserve. Switch now and get $300 off our best phones.
The midterm elections, just 4 days to go. Early voting is through the roof. More than 27 million votes cast so far. That's already 7 million more than in 2014. And social media is in overdrive. These are the most tweeted about midterms ever.
Enthusiasm and engagement appear to be at record highs. President Trump has settled on a closing argument that echoes the opening days of his presidential campaign, trying to rally his base by raising fears about immigrants, hoping to pick up Senate seats in deep red states. ABC senior White House correspondent Cecilia Vega is here with the latest. Good morning, Cecilia.
Hey, George, good morning to you. The president is using words like national crisis and invasion to describe immigration in this country, even though that is not actually reality. But this is his election strategy. And by our count, he's used hardline immigration rhetoric nearly every day for the past 3 weeks. President Trump's closing argument, a doomsday scenario in which America is overrun by undocumented immigrants.
If you don't want America to be overrun by masses of illegal aliens and giant caravans, you better vote Republican.
And as Election Day nears, he is ramping up his rhetoric using fear. From the campaign trail,
these courageous Americans did not shed their blood, sweat, and tears so that we could sit at home while others tried to erase their legacy, tear down our history, and destroy our proud American heritage.
To the Roosevelt Room of the White House.
This isn't an innocent group of people. There's a large number of people that are tough. They've injured, they've attacked.
Even though the migrants in that caravan, many poor and fleeing violence, are still about 900 miles from the border, and Mexican officials say the number is dwindling by the day, that is not stopping the president. He's now promising a new executive order to crack down on asylum seekers, a move sure to trigger legal challenges. He wants to potentially detain families indefinitely.
We're putting up massive cities of tents.
The ACLU issuing this statement, quote, if he plans at some point to prohibit people from applying for asylum between the ports of entry, that plan is illegal. And those 15,000 troops the president says he'll send to the border, he now says they would fire their weapons at the caravan if migrants throw rocks.
I hope not. I hope it's the military. I hope there won't be that. But I will tell you this, anybody throwing stones, rocks, we will consider that a firearm. Because there's not much difference. They want to throw rocks at our military fights back. We're going to consider it. I told them, consider it a rifle.
Retired General Martin Dempsey, former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, saying of that troop deployment, quote, our men and women in uniform are better trained, better equipped, and better led, so they meet any threat with confidence. A wasteful deployment of overstretched soldiers and Marines would be made much worse if they use force disproportional to the threat they face. They won't. Okay, and here's another false claim, this one over his controversial zero-tolerance policy separating families at the border. The president says it's all President Obama's fault. Here's the reality. Families under President Obama were separated because the parents were tied to serious crimes like drug trafficking under the Trump administration. Crossing the border was crime enough, and we should say there are still 200 children in custody today.
And as you pointed out, the president's talked about this every day for the last few weeks. He throws out new proposals every day. Not clear which ones he's going to follow through on, but especially on this issue of the military on the border. We have laws prohibiting the military from being involved in enforcement action. The president would have to declare a national emergency. It's not even clear that the military would be any kind of in position to fire if there was any kind of violence.
And it's not even clear that the Pentagon was ready for this. I mean, what the president is saying, he wants as many as 15,000 troops on the border. The Pentagon says there will actually be up to 8,000 troops, so there's daylight there. And the president, this scenario of firing on migrants seems to be at odds with what the Pentagon is saying publicly. They're saying that they're emphasizing that the military will be there in a support role. So who knows?
Far from the border, wouldn't even necessarily have ammunition inside their weapons. Cecilia Vega, thanks very much.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And that did it for the Riley King Newscast right here on the Riley King Network. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your Friday night, and I'll see you back here tomorrow for another newscast. Good night, everyone. Bye.